Dwight Eisenhower, also known as Ike, was born October 14th, 1890, and died March 28th, 1969. He was a supreme commander of the Allied forces in Western Europe during World War II and was later President of the United States. His early career. Eisenhower was the third of 7 sons of David and Ida Elizabeth Eisenhower. In the spring of 1891, the Eisenhowers left Texas and returned to Kansas, where their family had settled as part of a Mennonite colony. David worked in a creamery, the family was poor, and Dwight and his brothers were introduced to hard work and a strong religious tradition at an early age. Ike, also known as Dwight, was called and was a fun-loving youth who enjoyed sports but took only a moderate interest in his studies. The latter was perhaps a sign of one of his later characteristics, a dislike for the company of scholars. Dwight graduated from Abilene High School in 1909, worked for more than a year to support a brother's college education, and then he entered the U.S. Military Academy at West Point, New York, a decision that left his mother in tears. He excelled on the football field, but he injured a knee in his second year at the academy and was forced to stop playing. In the remarkable class of 1915, which produced 59 generals, he ranked 61st academically and 125th in discipline out of the total 164 graduates. After being commissioned a second lieutenant, he went to San Antonio, Texas, where he met Mamie Geneva Dowd, or Mamie Eisenhower, daughter of a successful Denver meat packer. They were married in 1916 and had 2 sons, Dowd Dwight, born in 1917, who later died of scarlet fever in 1921, and John Sheldon Dowd, born in 1922. During World War I, Eisenhower commanded a tank training center and was later promoted to captain and received the Distinguished Service Medal. The war ended just before he was to be sent overseas, and from 1922 to 1924 he was assigned to the Panama Canal Zone, and there he came under the inspiring influence of his commander, Brigadier General Fox Connor. With Connor's assistance, Eisenhower was selected to attend the Army's Command and General Staff School at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. Then a major, he graduated first in his class of 275 in 1926, and 2 years later graduated from the Army War College. He then served in France, where he wrote a guidebook of World War I battlefields, and in Washington, D.C. before becoming an aide to Army Chief of Staff General Douglas MacArthur in 1933. 2 years later, he accompanied MacArthur to the Philippines to assist in the reorganization of the Commonwealth's army, and while there he was awarded the Distinguished Service Star of the Philippines and promoted to the rank of lieutenant colonel. He returned to the U.S. shortly after Germany's invasion of Poland and the European phase of World War II had started, and in March 1941 he became a full colonel. 3 months later he was made Chief of Staff of the Third Army, and he soon won the attention of Army Chief of Staff General George C. Marshall for his role in planning war games involving almost 500,000 troops. When the U.S. entered World War II in December 1941, Marshall appointed Eisenhower to the War's Plans Division in Washington, D.C., where he prepared strategy for an Allied invasion of Europe. Eisenhower had been made a brigadier general in September 1941 and was promoted to major general in March of 1942. He was also named head of Operations Division of the War Department. In June, Marshall selected him over 366 senior officers to be the commander of U.S. troops in Europe. Eisenhower's rapid advancement after a long career spent in relative obscurity was due not only to his knowledge of military strategy and talent for organization, but also to his ability to persuade, mediate, and get along with others. Men from a wide variety of backgrounds impressed by his friendliness, humility, and persistent optimism. They liked and they trusted him, a phrase that later became one of the most famous campaign slogans in American history. I like Ike. Eisenhower was promoted to lieutenant general in July 1942 and named the head Operation Torch, the Allied invasion of French North Africa. This first major Allied offensive of the war was launched on November 8, 1942, and successfully completed in May of 1943. Eisenhower's decision to work during the campaign with the French admiral Francis Darlan, who had collaborated with the Germans, aroused a storm of protest from the Allies, but his actions was defended by President Franklin D. Roosevelt. A full general since that February, Eisenhower then directed the amphibious assault of Sicily and the Italian mainland, which resulted in the fall of Rome on June 4, 1944. During the fighting in Italy, Eisenhower participated in plans to cross the English Channel for an invasion of France. On December 24, 1943, he was appointed Supreme Commander of the Allied Expeditionary Force, and the next month he was in London making preparations for the massive thrust into Europe. On June 6, 1944, he gambled on a break in bad weather and gave the order to launch the Normandy invasion, the largest amphibious attack in history. On D-Day, more than 156,000 troops landed in Normandy. Invading Allied forces eventually numbered 1 million strong and began to fight their way into the heart of France. On August 25th, Paris was liberated. After winning the Battle of the Bulge, a fierce German counterattack in the Ardennes in December, the Allies crossed the Rhine on March 7, 1945. Germany surrendered on May 7th, ending the war in Europe. Although Eisenhower was criticized then and later for allowing the Russians to capture the enemy capital of Berlin, he and others defended his actions on several grounds. The Russians were closer, they had more troops, and they had been promised Berlin at the Yalta Conference of February in 1944 earlier in the year. In the meantime, in December 1944, Eisenhower had been made a 5-star general, and he was given a hero's welcome upon returning to the U.S. for a visit in June 1945. But in November, his intended retirement was delayed when President Harry S. Truman named him to replace Marshall as Chief of Staff. For more than 2 years, Eisenhower directed demobilization of the wartime army and worked to unify the armed services under a centralized command. In May 1948, he left active duty as the most popular and respected soldier in the U.S. and became president of Columbia University in New York. His brief career as an academic administrator was not successful, and his technical education and military experience prepared him poorly for the post. In the fall of 1950, President Truman asked him to become Supreme Commander of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, also known as NATO, and in the early 1950s, he flew to Paris to assume his new position. For the next 15 months, he devoted himself to the task of creating a united military organization in Western Europe to be a defense against the possibility of communist aggression. His first term as president, as early as 1943, Eisenhower was mentioned as a possible presidential candidate. His personal qualities and military reputation prompted both parties to woo him. As the campaign of 1952 neared, Eisenhower let it be known that he was a Republican, and the eastern wing of the party, headed by Governor Thomas E. Dewey of New York, made an intensive effort to persuade him to seek the Republican nomination. His name was entered in several state primaries against the more conservative Senator Robert A. Taft of Ohio. Although the results were mixed, Eisenhower decided to run. In June 1952, he retired from the Army after 37 years of service, returned to the U.S., and began to campaign actively. At the party convention in July, after a bitter fight with Taft supporters, Eisenhower won the nomination on the first ballot. His running mate was Senator Richard M. Nixon of California. The Democrats nominated Adlai Stevenson of Illinois for president and Senator John Sparkman of Alabama for vice president. Despite his age, he was 61, Eisenhower campaigned tirelessly, impressing millions with his warmth and sincerity. His wide, friendly grin, wartime heroics, and middle-class pastimes. He also was an avid golfer and bridge player, and a fan not of highbrow literature but of the American Western, endeared him to the public and garnered him vast support. Like her husband, Mamie Eisenhower projected a strong, down-to-earth image. She remained an ardent supporter of him, though their marriage had been strained by rumors of an affair during World War II between Eisenhower and his driver's secretary. Eisenhower urged economy and honesty in government and promised to visit Korea to explore the possibilities for ending the Korean War, which had broken out in the 1950s between communist North Korea and pro-Western South Korea. Many Republicans, including Nixon, spoke of pro-communist disloyalty within the Truman administration and called for stringent anti-subversive measures. The Eisenhower-Nixon ticket won handily, carrying 39 states, winning the electoral vote 442 to 89 and collecting more than 33 million popular votes. The Republican Party won control of Congress by a slim margin, but lost both houses 2 years later. Eisenhower's basically conservative views on domestic affairs were shared by his Secretary of Treasury, George Humphrey. The administration's domestic program, which came to be labeled modern republicanism, called for reduced taxes, balanced budgets, a decrease in government control over the economy, and the return of certain federal responsibilities to the states. Overall, Dwight Eisenhower's legacy is marked by his military leadership, the advancement of American infrastructure, a pragmatic approach to foreign policy, efforts towards civil rights, and a commitment to a peaceful transfer of power. His impact on the nation and the world continues to be felt to this day.
Premium Forever Love necklace to my beautiful love. Buy this necklace, click my YouTube video description product link, and shop now.